Welcome back to my video series on building the Bearhawk 5. This video is all about assembling and installing the control column. It starts out by reaming the paint from all the assembly points. The plans call to ream out the bolt attachment hole where the control arm connects to the control arm assembly. The hardware for this is an AN4 bolt. The plan said to use a 1/4 inch reamer, so that's what I did. Next, I installed the AN4 hardware and dry fitted the control sticks to the assembly. I aligned the push-rod arms and made sure that everything aligned nicely before the next step. The kit came with a 1/4 inch outside diameter bushing that needs to be pressed into the hole where the push-rod meets the lower end of the control column. I used a C-clamp for this. I then installed the hardware for the rest of the control column before moving it over to the fuselage to be mounted. The legacy manuals have a note in them to make sure that the control arm push rods are aligned with the lower aileron pulleys to prevent any binding or side load on the cables once they are installed. I used a piece of twine to simulate the control cables being installed. Once I was happy with the alignment, I clamped the control assembly down the best I could. It's really important to make sure that the assembly clamps firmly prior to drilling. I used a combination of vice grips, Cleco clamps, spring clamps, and just about anything else I could. There's not a lot of surface area to work on here, so it's a rather challenging task. I think a set of needle nose vice grips would have been beneficial and probably worked better than anything I had on hand. I then center punched all the holes starting with a number 40 and upsized all the way to a 3/16 final ream size for the AN3 bolts. I took apart everything and deburred all the holes prior to final assembly. One important thing that I learned here was that you cannot torque down the castellated nuts to their corresponding book values for either the control column or the rudder assembly. In both cases, there are certain nuts that are designed to move freely and simply have to be tightened snug to ensure proper movement. It's important to install all new cotter pins and use proper techniques for these bolts. From my understanding, most builders inspect these nuts regularly. I added some torque steel at the end as a visual guide to ensure there's been no movement by the nuts. Well, that about wraps up this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.